So, my name is Ahmed, and I'm one of the new student transition ambassadors at SCLD, which is also known as the Center for Student Community and Leadership Development. And our goal is to essentially smoothen your transition into university life. So, this session is designed to help you navigate the many resources and services offered by York University libraries, from accessing research databases to borrowing materials, to booking study rooms and getting research help. So this is just one of many information sessions that we host for all of you incoming first year students to make transitioning into university life a little easier. On the horizon for this week, we have an information session on Savvy and eClass, to help you navigate your electronic classroom. And we also have a virtual parent and family orientation at the end of the week. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend that you register for those sessions on YU Connect, and we will link that in the chat as well. So whether you're new to York or you're looking to deepen your connection, this is a great opportunity for you to learn, how to make the most of your experience and your academic success at York. So today we're very fortunate to have a couple special guests joining us from all over campus, from York University's libraries. They bring an extensive amount of knowledge about research support, academic resources, and digital tools to help you thrive in your studies. So as we go along, please feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them, but we'll also be having a Q&A portion at the end to make sure we cover as much as possible. With that, I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague to get us started with the icebreaker.
Thank you, Ahmed. I will now share my screen. Okay, so before we jump into today's session, we want to start with a quick fun survey just so we can get to know you a little bit better. Don't worry, there are absolutely no right or wrong answers, and it's all about you. So here's how it works. So you would grab your phone, laptop, or tablet, open up any browser, and type in menti.com. Once you type in menti.com, it will ask you for a code. Once you're there, you would input the code 12476207. Rachel will also link the Menti link in the chat just to make it easier for you. Okay, so I see people have already joined. That's great. If you're having trouble joining or you're not able to join at all, no stress. You can always drop your answers in the chat and we'll make sure that you're included as well. All right, for those that are just joining us, once again, we have a quick little fun survey for you. So what you're gonna do is grab any cellular device, your phone, laptop, or tablet, open up any browser, whether it's Chrome, Safari, it would work, and type in menti.com. Once you type in menti.com, it will ask you for a code, and you would input the code 12476207. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to start it now. If you haven't joined yet, don't worry, you can still join. So, our first question for you today is where are you joining us from today? Laos, Toronto, Nova Scotia, Brampton, Switzerland. Wow. Mississauga, Newmarket, Africa. Amazing. Amazing. I love hearing all the different places you're tuning in from, whether you're right here in Toronto or somewhere across Canada or even joining from another country. We're so excited to have you here and welcome. Mexico, Panama, amazing. So moving on to the next slide. Which of the following best describes you? Are you an incoming first year student, a transfer student, or maybe a parent or fam or guardian or a family member? Okay, so we have quite a bit of transfer students and a lot of first year students, which is makes sense. As a student, you want to know exactly how to make the most of your York University's resources. And trust me, the library is one of the most powerful tools you'll be using as a student. So you're in the right session. Amazing. On to the next slide. Our next question for you is, what's one word to describe how you're feeling about starting university? Anxious, excited, nervous, all valid emotions. Oh, we have a little emoji there. Scared, freedom. Interested, amazing. I love hearing all these words, whether you're feeling excited, nervous, curious, or maybe even a little bit overwhelmed. Just know that you're not alone. I was once in your shoes, a brand new student with a lot of questions, and over time, you really find your rhythm and confidence. So I would say ask questions. That's the one thing that helped me. Someone said, "What's going on?" Amazing, awesome answers. So, on to the final question for you is what are you hoping to learn from today's session? Everything about library services? Amazing stuff. Using the library, good answer. Navigating resources? Amazing answer. Resources. How to use the library? Okay, awesome. I see a lot of us want to know how to use the resources, and it's a great starting point. So, whatever you're here to learn, I can promise you that our library services team is ready to help. And by the end of the session, you'll know exactly how to use the York U Library to support your academic success. Awesome. Thank you everyone for participating. So, thanks for sharing. We're so glad you're here once again. Sit tight. The session will begin shortly. And in the meantime, feel free to get comfy, grab a drink, and say hi in the chat. We don't bite. Okay, I'll pass it on to the library services team.
Okay, thank you, Clara. Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining this information session on the essentials of university library research. My name is Simranjeet Singh.
And I'm Daksh.
We are the library student success mentors. We hope you find the presentation helpful and gives you a little bit of a head start when you start classes in a couple of weeks. And a quick reminder, if you experience any difficulties, please rejoin at the same link. Okay, moving on. Joining us today from the York University Libraries, we have Anitza, we have Alex, Joshua, June, and Carlo. They're all part of the research help team. Next slide. So today we are going to ask you to think about research you will do and the papers that you will write in your time as a student at York University, as participating in conversations, scholarly conversations. And so we will be looking at where to find those conversations by demonstrating Omni, the library search tool, and we will explore the differences between scholarly and popular sources. We will also talk about the etiquette of these scholarly conversations by looking at academic integrity and citation. Finally, we want to be sure you know where to get help with library research and give you the opportunity to ask questions before we leave. So, moving on.
Well, but before we dive in, I have a question. How many of you know that how many libraries there are at York University? You can take a guess and you can put your answers in the chat. All right, interesting. Well, moving on to the next slide. We have 6 libraries plus the Osgood Law Library. Well, 3 libraries on the Keele campus. The Scott Library is the largest and focuses on the arts, humanities, and social sciences. The Stacy Science and Engineering Library and the Bronfman Business Library in the Schulich School of Business are the other 2 Keele campus libraries. And there's also the Osgood Law Library, which is on the Keele campus, but it is less accessible to non-law students. Then we have the bilingual Frost Library on the Glendon campus and our newest addition, that is the Markham Campus Library. And also, did you know that we have a library in Costa Rica that is supporting York's Eco Campus, helping out with the local community? And all students are welcome to use any of these libraries. So moving on, we would like to play a short video explaining many of the services and resources you can find in our libraries.
Welcome to York University Libraries. As the semester goes on, you might have a lot of questions. Come to the library for some answers. Do you need a place to study? At the library's 5 different locations, we have a variety of study spaces to meet your needs. Like quiet zones for when you need to focus. And spaces where you can work and connect with friends. Do you need help with your assignments? Start your search in Omni, your gateway to York Library's collection of books, articles, and more. Did you know that you can use Omni to request books from other universities all throughout Ontario? That's over 25 million resources available to you directly through Omni. Are you feeling stuck with your research? Don't worry, we're here to help. You can connect with us on chat, join us for a Zoom session, or drop by the library to ask your question in person. Want to try VR or record a podcast? Check out our new Making and Media Creation Labs. Did you know that the libraries offer free workshops? Discover a world of learning opportunities designed just for you. Check it out, library.yorku.ca. And don't forget to follow us on social media.
All right. So I have a question before we talk about the YU card. That is, how many of the people know about YU card ID here? You can raise your hand or just put it in the chat. Okay. How many people know that you need it when you write your exams? All right. So you will also need your YU card to access any of the library resources like articles, ebooks, or even if you want to borrow a microphone or a camera. So get your YU card as early as possible. You can do it online and then you can download it on your mobile phone. So Carlos is going to share the link in the chat so you can access the YU card link. So moving on, we have the YU card video.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Lib 101. My name is Susan, and I'm here at Markham Campus Library to tell you how important it is for you to get your YU card today. Did you know that your YU card is your key to using the library? Need to check out books at the service desk? Just tap for that. Have a paper to write? Get a YU card to ensure you have access to all our online and physical resources. Have a class reading you need access to? Make sure you get your YU card. Need to use our book lockers to collect your requested items? Again, just tap. Whether you want to print on paper or 3D print, you'll need a YU card for that as well. Want to borrow media equipment like a camera or microphone from our Making a Media Creation lab? Have your YU card handy. Get your mobile card now on your phone through the YU card webpage. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time. And remember, have questions or need help? Connect with us on our chat service. Contact us by email or phone, or talk to us in person. As always, we're here to help.
Right, so that's about the YU card. Now I'm going to pass it on to Alex to talk about scholarly conversations.
Thanks, Simran and Daksh. So hi, folks. My name is Alex. I'm joining you from the Markham Campus Library today. I see lots of questions about the YU card in the chat. I just wanted to respond to one of the questions. Can we get a physical version of the digital card? You can only have a digital version of the card or a physical version of the card. I need to put a message in the chat. We encourage you to contact the YU card office regarding what options are available to you. All right, but let's get into the topic of today's workshop. The overall overarching theme is all about scholarship is conversation. And the analogy or metaphor that we want to use to convey that information to you folks today is that of a party. So you might find yourself at a party, an event with friends or new people that you're meeting for the first time. You're having conversations at this event, and you're trying to understand different points of view, learn about different people. And so what you're going to do is you're going to probably ask people about their views or opinions on different things in order to get to know them. And one of the questions you might ask, and this is the most obvious question, but we want to ask it still, is let's say that hypothetically at this party, you want to know how everyone feels about pineapple on pizza. So let's say, have never had pineapple on pizza. I've never tasted it before, but I'm trying to understand. I know it's divisive. I know it's polarizing. Why do people like it, or why do people dislike it? You can let us know in the chat if you like or dislike pineapple on pizza. But I'm going to ask Daksh, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Well, Alex, I really don't like pineapple on pizza because the flavors don't match.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Daksh. So I have one person who doesn't love pineapple on pizza. But Simran, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
I like it. I think it's healthier to eat.
Okay, interesting. So we have someone who likes it because they maybe feel like it's healthier. So after this conversation I'm having at the party, I might say, okay, pineapple on pizza. Some people dislike it because the flavors don't really match, like my friend Daksh, who thinks that. And some people really like it because the addition of pineapple feels healthier to eat, like my friend Simran, who said that. That is a simulation of what a conversation might be like at a party. I don't want to claim those ideas at my own. But guess what? You're engaging in conversations at university as well. They're just probably not about pineapple on pizza, and you're probably not hanging out at a house playing music and having drinks. And I appreciate all of the contributions in the chat, an overwhelming enjoyment of pineapple on pizza, which I really find interesting. I thought we'd get more dislikes with pineapple on pizza. But as I mentioned, you're engaging in conversations, and these conversations are happening in different ways at the university, and you're going to be engaging in them at different points of your academic career. So one place that you might encounter or engage with these conversations is in those first few weeks when you receive your course outlines or syllabi. This is where you will learn about the readings and the different lectures that are going to be covered in your class. This covers a range of topics that are important and appropriate to your specific discipline or field of study. And this is likely where you're going to encounter terminology and concepts, as well as the key authors or contributors to that conversation in your field for the first time. Later on in those courses, you're probably going to deliver presentations, engage in classroom discussions, write papers on topics. That is you participating in a scholarly conversation because you're likely going to make reference to those different authors that you're encountering. The same way that I made reference to Daksh's dislike of pizza or Simran's enjoyment of pineapple on pizza, you're making references to different authors and contributors. The library, though, is the place that can help you find and evaluate those sources of information, books and articles where these conversations are taking place, and the library can help you evaluate their usefulness. Carlo's actually going to throw a sample reading list in the chat for you folks. And Carlo's going to also share an example of what that sample reading list might look like. And so as Carlo is putting that link in the chat for you folks, you can see on here now, this is just a sample syllabus, one that we've put together for today's session. Obviously, your course outlines are going to look very different, but your course outlines will also have reading lists, just like this one on the screen. As you can see there, under the reading list, we have all of these different authors contributing different pieces of information to the scholarly conversation. And it's a little meta because all of these authors are writing about scholarship as conversation. But where can you find these sources of information? I'm going to pass it off to my colleague June, and June can tell you all about Omni, which is our search tool.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex, and welcome everyone. Can we have the next slide, please, Carlo? Great. Okay, so let's dive into this thing called Omni. Whoop. Oh, okay, we're jumping. Okay, here we are. Perfect. Thank you. So Omni is our, as Alex said, is our search tool. You find it on the library homepage. So if you want to get a jump on it, bookmark it right now because you'll be coming back to this page, hopefully over and over again. Okay, so let's jump to the next slide so I can talk about what Omni is. So Omni is, I mean, we call it a discovery layer because we have these strange terms in the library world, but basically it's a search engine. It's like Google in some respects, except that it's a lot narrower. So when you're searching in Omni, if you search in Google, you go out into the wide world and you get all kinds of stuff. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know who the author is, all those kinds of things. When you're searching in Omni, you're only looking at York University resources or York University and our partner resources. So you're looking at a very narrow world, but you're looking at things that have been selected by librarians, so you know that they're going to be more relevant to your topic, and you're going to get fewer of them. So when you're searching Omni, as it says, it's the gateway to books, articles, videos, and more. And I'll do a demonstration in a minute, so this is not going to be all so mysterious. As I said, it searches York University's collection, and if you choose, it can select from our partners' collections as well. And when I say partners, I'm talking about things like Queen's, Waterloo, Guelph, like all our universities in Ontario. And hopefully it will be your starting point for looking for your resources. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So the picture that we're looking at is what we refer to as the basic search. So one line and you just input whatever it is you're looking for. The basic search, we recommend you use it for things called known item searches. Again, another weird librarian or a library world term. But basically we're saying if you know the title of the book, if you know the title of the article, if you know the title of the film or whatever it is you've been given, you could simply cut it into or type it into the search box and execute the search. Many of these known item searches you will be getting directly off your syllabus or your e-class site. Usually your professor gives you a set of readings. And so if there isn't a link in e-class, you can always search the library for your resource. It's not, when you're inputting your title in the search box, it's not case sensitive, so you don't have to worry about capitals and all that kind of thing. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to demonstrate a simple title search of a book in Omni. So if you want to join me in searching this, you can. And you can give me a thumbs up on whether you were successful or not. So I'm going to go back to the reading. Can everyone see my screen? I'm going to go back to the reading list, and I've highlighted the second item, Developing Information Literacy Skills, a guide to finding, evaluating, and citing sources. So I'm going to copy this because I don't like typing, and I'm going to stick it in Omni here. I'm just going to take the period off, and I'm going to search it. And as you can see, it comes up as the first resource. It tells you it's a book, and it tells you that it's at the Scott Library. Okay, so that's our basic search for titles, known item searches. Okay, so now we're going to take a quick look at an advanced search. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. And if you could go to the next slide. Perfect. Thank you, Carlo. So this is the advanced search screen. And you use an advanced search when you're doing more research type work. So if you have an assignment question, or if you've been given a topic just to research, and it's a situation where you have multiple keywords to search, or sometimes we refer to them as multiple concepts to search. This is a more effective way to search. It has multiple search fields, and built into the interface are these things we call connectors. So you don't have to understand or think about what connectors to use. They're built right into the interface. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this is a type of question where we have multiple concepts. So how does the use of smartphones in classrooms affect students' attention span and academic engagement? So as we can see from the picture here, we've got three concepts. Each has a different color. So smartphones is yellow. Our second concept is students, green. And our third concept is this, it's a phrase, attention span and academic engagement. So instead of inputting attention span and academic engagement, I've distilled it down to the concept of distraction. Okay. And you can see that we've input them each on its own search line. So what I'm going to do now is let me share my screen once again. And I'm just going to execute this search. Okay, so let's just bring up. So here we are back at the home page. We're going to go into the advanced search link right here. And I'm going to input our 3 concepts. So we've got smartphones. We've got students. And as you can see, it defaults to just 2 lines. So I'm just going to add a line here. And I'm going to put in our 3rd distraction. Okay, I'm going to search now that I've got my 3 concepts in here. And as you can see, we've got a search results list that has all kinds of things on it. So I'm going to turn it back to back to Alex now, so that he can walk us through what we're seeing. And I need to sign in. Oh, no, I have to continue sharing. Sorry. I have to sign in so that I can demonstrate something else. Okay, so take it away, Alex, while I sign in.
Sounds good, June. And just to get to some questions that are happening there in the chat. You do not need to pay when borrowing a book. Your tuition that you're paying to York covers your access to the resources at the library. Again, as Joshua mentioned, there's only payment or fees if you lose or damage an item. But otherwise, feel free to borrow and read as much as you'd like, free of charge. And so while June is pulling up the search results, you folks have gotten some practice now with the basic search as well as the advanced search. And I just want to talk a little bit more about your ability to navigate the search results whenever you're using the Omni tool. And so, June, we're just looking at probably the wrong screen right now, but
Okay.
so as June's pulling up the search results again, your professors likely are going to be asking you to use different books and articles and resources for your assignments, but they're not going to be asking you to use popular sources. They're going to want you to use scholarly resources. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to differentiate those 2 types of sources in a moment. But some language you might hear being used by your professors is refereed journals, or the more popularly used term, peer-reviewed journals. What does peer-reviewed mean? Peer-reviewed means that any content being published in that journal has been vetted by a team of experts in that field. So any article published in a peer-reviewed journal has gone through some peer review edits. Changes have been made to the content to verify its validity and legitimacy, and that it has been deemed as contributing to that field of knowledge or that field of study. This is where scholarly conversations are taking place, but how do you identify what is a scholarly source or not? So whenever you're searching on Omni, whenever you pull up search results, you'll see different types of resources pop up when you conduct a search. So sometimes you'll see books, sometimes you'll see articles. There's magazine articles, theses and dissertations, book chapters, even newspapers that you can search through. June, if you click on Show More on the screen, you'll see that there's a plethora of resources available to you. But there's actually a filter or facet that we have. So whenever you're doing a search, if you go to the left-hand navigation toolbar, under the availability subheading, you'll see a filter for peer-reviewed journals. So when June clicks on that filter, it reduces the number of results you've received for your search, but what it's done is that it has provided you exclusively a list of peer-reviewed articles. And you can see there the little purple icon with the I and the journal that indicates this is a peer-reviewed journal. However, in some cases, your professors might ask you to use a scholarly book. And in this case, this filter isn't necessarily going to help you find those scholarly books. So I'll have June stop sharing, and Carlo will bring up the PowerPoint slides again. So we can talk a little bit more about scholarly versus popular sources. Whenever you're on Omni, different types of resources are going to pop up, a combination of physical resources, sometimes digital resources. In some cases, we might have access to both. So you might be able to borrow a physical copy of a book and access it online. In some cases, it may be exclusively one or the other. Also, for your assignments that you're writing, the number of resources you need to consult is likely going to vary based on the length of the paper that you're writing. A 300-word reflection is going to require far fewer resources than, let's say, a 3,000-word paper. Whenever you are doing research, conducting research for your assignments, what you'll often do is you'll actually discover different key terms, phrases, terminology that are specific to your field. And those words or phrases can actually help improve the search that you do. So as June was showing you about students and smartphones and distraction, you might in your research find a different word that they use for, let's say, distraction, and then you might want to change your search to use that specific term instead. Also, keeping in mind, part of the etiquette of scholarly conversation is acknowledging how other people contributed to that conversation. You're likely not the first person saying something in a scholarly conversation, and so you want to recognize the people who have already been contributing to the conversation, just like I acknowledged Daksh and Simran with their contributions for Pineapple on Pizza earlier. So let's talk about differentiating scholarly versus popular sources. So on the next slide, you'll see here a chart differentiating different types of popular and scholarly sources. The content that you likely encounter in your day-to-day life that you've likely encountered for the most part up until now has all, for the most part, been popular. So looking at the two sides of the chart, we can see actually that there are some similarities. On the left-hand side, we have a book called The Midnight Library, and on the right-hand side, we have a book titled Developing Information Literacy Skills. How come books can be both popular and scholarly at the same time? Something to keep in mind for popular books like The Midnight Library, these are often pieces of fiction writing. They are novels, they are stories that authors have told. But another easy way to tell if a book is a popular source is the publisher. So the publisher for The Midnight Library is HarperCollins. HarperCollins tends to publish popular pieces of writing. On the right-hand side, you can see that the publisher is the University of Michigan Press. So a bit of a life hack here. You don't need to memorize all the publishers that exist in the world. If university is in the name of the publisher, that means that it is an academic publishing house. They are likely publishing scholarly content. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You can look for the publisher of a book to identify popular or scholarly. On the popular side, we also have videos. So that is a YouTube video there. You might encounter TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I learn lots of things from watching TikTok videos. That doesn't make them scholarly. So anyone can upload any piece of content, any video content to any social media platform. It can be informative, but it has not been vetted by a team of experts to verify the validity of that information. Similarly, under the video, we have a podcast. Again, I love listening to podcasts. I learn lots of things from listening to podcasts. You can even have academics engaging in conversation on podcasts. That doesn't mean it qualifies as a scholarly source, but it may contribute to the conversation in some way. We have a magazine there. That's the Maclean's magazine. Magazines are great sources of journalistic information, but keep in mind, in magazine articles, the authors are often being paid to write the articles in magazines, unlike in scholarly sources where you're not being paid to produce that content. And so if you're being paid, the magazine or the publisher might have certain ideas that they want to push forward and certain other ideas that they're not so invested in. Also, these articles don't usually have bibliographies or citations, but that doesn't mean that they also can't contribute to the conversation. And then we have the notorious Wikipedia article. So Wikipedia is what we call a tertiary source, which is another fancy library term, which just means that it is amalgamating a bunch of different information from different primary and secondary sources. It pieces all of these sources together to create a cohesive piece of information, but that doesn't make it scholarly. It is a popular source of information and might be a useful way to start your research, but isn't enough for your citations for your assignments. So getting into the scholarly sources on the right-hand side here. So I've already mentioned the book, Developing Information Literacy Skills. As I mentioned, you can always look for those publishers to identify if a book is scholarly. But something you might also notice with scholarly books is that they're published by an editor or a team of editors, and then the chapters are a volume of chapters from lots of different authors from different universities. In a way, this is like a peer review system for scholarly books. So you might have one author editing a bunch of different chapters from a bunch of different authors. That author or editor is like the peer reviewer for the edited volume of chapters. So that's something you might see in scholarly writing. The other resource here we have is a peer reviewed journal, Serials Review. And underneath that is an article, a peer reviewed article from Serials Review. What you'll notice is there's a title, there's a university affiliation for this author, Wake Forest University. Scholarly articles tend to include an abstract, which is a summary of the article for what you're about to read. And what you'll also notice in the little top right-hand corner is the publisher of this journal, which is Routledge, Taylor and Francis Group. You don't need to memorize, again, all the publishers, but Routledge, Taylor and Francis, these are an academic publishing house. So it doesn't have to say University of Michigan, University of Toronto, University of Chicago. There are some other academic publishing houses as well. All right. That is the quick and dirty look at popular versus scholarly sources. But what we're going to move on to now is a Mentimeter activity. So Carlo is going to pull up the Mentimeter activity. There's a QR code that you can scan to join. So if you want to use your phone, you can join that way. Or you can use the link at the top, menti.com, and then use the code 23410324. So we're just inviting you to join the Mentimeter. The link is in the chat as well. You can use your laptop, you can use your phone, whichever device you'd prefer. And we'll just let folks get settled into the Mentimeter before we start the scholarly versus popular sources survey. And maybe folks, as you join, if you join, maybe you can give me a thumbs up on Zoom just so I can see who's been able to join the Mentimeter. Thank you. I see some thumbs up. I appreciate it, Martin. Thank you so much. All right. So as we get ready for this activity, there's no right or wrong. Like I said, it's a survey. I just want to get a sense of what you folks think about different types of sources and how you are maybe evaluating them right now. So Carlo, let's move on to the next slide. So we have 37 participants right now in the activity. Folks, if you'd like to join, don't worry if you haven't yet. The link is in the chat right there that Carlo posted with the code as well. So you can just go to menti.com and put in the code. And so our first question is, what kind of source is a newspaper? So you might have encountered newspapers like the Toronto Star, the Globe and Mail, these are sources of information, but what kind? Is it a popular source, a scholarly source, or are we not so sure? So we have 33 out of 40 participants so far for this question. What do we think? Popular, scholarly, or are we not so sure? And also, if you're not able to join on the Mentimeter, feel free to throw your thoughts into the chat. What do you think? If you're feeling confident, you can throw it into the chat as well. Alrighty, so it seems like the majority of folks seem to think that newspapers are popular sources of information. And I'm inclined to say yes. Newspapers are popular sources of information. Just like magazines, newspaper journalists are being paid to produce the content that they are writing for these newspapers. Also, they're not usually including a bibliographic list, citations for the works that they're citing in these articles. But that doesn't mean that you can't use newspapers for an academic piece of writing. Newspapers can be a great way, for example, to establish a historical timeline of events. It's a great primary resource as well. So it can have scholarly uses, but it is a popular source of information. Let's move on to the next slide, Carlo. What kind of articles are found in a peer-reviewed journal? Popular articles, scholarly articles, or are we not sure? And the image there is actually a physical copy of a peer-reviewed journal. So oftentimes we'll read peer-reviewed journals online, but sometimes they're still printed physically as paper copies, and you might even be able to see some of them when you visit some of the branches of the libraries. A lot of them, though, have moved digitally. So the majority of you think scholarly articles. You would be correct in that the articles in these journals have been reviewed by teams of experts in that particular field who have verified and vetted the information within those articles. These articles are extensively cited. There are long bibliographies attached to these articles, and they're often published by people working for or representing different universities from across the world. Let's move on to the next slide. What kind of source is a book published by University of Toronto Press? So if the University of Toronto Press has published something, is it a popular book, a scholarly book, or are we not sure? And just as folks are answering, in the image that you can see behind there, there's actually the infamous Routledge. You can see Routledge as one of the publishers. You can see Cengage, that's another common scholarly publisher. And so yes, the majority of you think if it's published by U of T Press, it's a piece of scholarly writing. Absolutely. Perhaps U of T Press is dipping their toes into some popular publishing, but more than likely they're publishing scholarly content. It can be a single author book. It can be a book that's an edited volume where an author or teams of authors are editing the chapters in the book. But it is going to likely be a piece of scholarly writing, and you can usually find those books at our branches, but you can also find popular books like fiction novels at our branches as well. And then the last slide, Carlo. Trick question here, or maybe a trickier question. What kind of source is ChatGPT? Is ChatGPT popular? Is it scholarly? Do we have no idea what generative AI is in the academic landscape? And we're definitely getting some more unsure responses here. In the chat, someone might think it's popular. So I want you folks to think about ChatGPT, generative AI, similar to Wikipedia, right? A tertiary source that's aggregating a bunch of different content and putting it together in a cohesive format for you. ChatGPT is very similar. These large language models are gathering lots of data and piecing it together in a dialogic. So you're having a dialogue with a bot, but it is piecing together information from all over the place. Ultimately, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it. So you can ask ChatGPT for, hey, could you find some scholarly sources on this topic for me? You can do that. But the information that it's providing you, there's no way to vet that information. So it's not been vetted by a team of experts. And sometimes it also hallucinates information. So it might even make up an article if you ask it to give you a scholarly piece of information. So it's going to be a popular source of information, might be useful to get the creative juices brewing, start to think about a concept or an idea, but you cannot cite or use ChatGPT as a scholarly source. So moving back to our PowerPoint slide, and thank you so much for participating in the Mentimeter. I'll ask you to keep the Mentimeter open on your phone or your laptop or whatever device that you're using, because we will return to the Mentimeter. So back to the PowerPoint, as you're thinking about, participating in the scholarly conversation, the etiquette that we want you to exemplify, keep in mind that you have a point and a perspective, point of view that you're contributing to a conversation. You've likely not started that conversation for the first time. You are joining an ongoing conversation. So you wouldn't at a party, blurt yourself in and make everyone else uncomfortable by claiming that you started a conversation. You're slowly joining into a conversation. You want to hear what different people are saying and make those acknowledgments. So as we acknowledge different people's contributions into the conversation, we want to make sure that we're doing that in an appropriate manner so that we're using citations in order to demonstrate academic integrity. We want to make sure, especially, that we're doing this when we're relying on someone's point of view or someone's discovery or repeating what someone else has said. So we never want to claim an idea as our own, especially if it has already been established in the literature. So I'm going to be passing it off to Anita to talk to you a little bit more about academic integrity and how to cite the sources that you're finding on Omni. So off to you, Anita.
Thanks, Alex. Can we move to the next slide, please, Carlo? Thank you. So in talking about etiquette, Alex was telling us basically why we need to cite. So just a little bit of a recap. So we want to give credit to other people's ideas, right? How would you feel if somebody stole your idea without acknowledging you? So it gives credit to people. We also want your reader to be able to locate the sources that you used. And your professor also wants to know where you got these sources. They can also look at the quality of your sources by looking at your list of references as well. So remember that you want to get some good sources. So again, June was talking about using the library to find these popular sources. Sorry, the scholarly sources. We also want you to be able to support your argument with evidence. So when you're writing a research paper, it's not just about your opinion, it's about showing that you can do the research, that you found some good sources, and that you have evidence, and your professor, again, is checking those lists for what kind of sources you're using. And overall, it just demonstrates good academic practice, and we want to make sure that you avoid being charged with plagiarism at all costs, because you don't want to go there. All right, so that was the why cite. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to cite, and I'm going to break this down into the basics for you. So it doesn't matter what style of citing you're going to use. We can break down any citation style basically into these 4 basic elements. So most citation style references are made up of these basic elements. The author, who wrote the thing, or who created the thing that you're using. The date, when was it created? The title tells the person what it is that you're using, and the source, where is this thing from? How can I find this thing? So these are the 4 basic elements. My slide is using APA style, and I borrowed this slide from the APA, the American Psychological Association style guide. But most styles, and there are lots of styles out there, they will be similar to this. The different thing is they will all use different styles of formatting, so we have to keep that in mind. Next slide, please, Carlo. So I'm going to look a little bit, and again, I'm using APA as an example. These are templates of APA style. So these 4 basic elements are put in a certain order, and they use certain formatting. So in APA style, the author goes first. In APA, they don't like to use the author's full name. It's just the last name plus initials. The date is put in brackets. There's a period between each element. The title of the book, in this case, we're doing a book reference first, is in italics, and the source is usually a publisher's name. So like the U of T Press, those examples that Alex was using. So it's not hard. It's just getting it in the right order and formatting it properly. The bottom example there on the slide is for a journal article. So it gets a little bit more trickier depending on what it is you're citing. A journal has a few more pieces of information. So with a journal article, again, the author is in the same location and in the same style, just the author last name and the initials. The date comes next in brackets. The title, in this case, with journal articles, sometimes you might get confused. There might be more than one title. What are all these titles? The article itself has a title. So that's what we're going to consider the main title of your item. The source is a little bit trickier for journal articles. You have a journal name, you have volumes and issues most likely, page numbers, and usually if it's online, it's also good practice to add your link or your URL. So that's what a journal article reference is going to look like. Not hard, but it is detailed work. So you just want to make sure that you don't lose marks here. You kind of take your time and do this, and hopefully you get 100% on this part of it. And remember, this is the last thing your prof sees. So if this is nice and 100%, maybe it'll give them a good sense of what your paper is like. Okay, next slide. So sometimes the hardest part is finding these elements. Seems easy, right? But when you look at your source, you have to figure out what is it that I'm citing. With a book, so I'm giving you an example here of a book cover. So if you have a book or an ebook, usually it has a front cover. A lot of the information can be found here. So the title is usually quite prominent and the authors. So as you can see here on this book, we have the title on the top and the author also on the cover of your book. Sometimes your publisher and your date are a little bit more hidden, so you will have to open up your book or go to the copyright page. So there's a title page in a book, and sometimes on the flip side of that title page, there's this copyright information. So this screenshot shows you the title, the copyright page, and it has a copyright date. It also gives you the University of Michigan Press, so that's your publisher. So, you know, you might have to do a little bit of digging, but hopefully it should all be pretty prominent. And on the left side, you're just going to see I've color-coded the elements with an actual example with the author, the date, the title in italics of the article, and the publisher at the end. And you'll notice also that in formatting the title, APA style only uses capitals at the beginning of the title, not through the rest of the title, but different styles might use different formatting. So just be careful of that. Okay. In my next slide, I'm going to give you an example of a journal article. So a journal, usually it's going to be online unless you're looking at a paper one, but the first page of a journal article should have most of the information, again, prominently listed. Usually at the top of the article, sometimes at the bottom of the page, but it should be on the first page usually. So this is an example here. The title is the most prominent, The Conversation of Scholarship. We have one author here. It also has some information about, you know, her credentials and where she's from. Don't worry about that. We just want the author's name. There is a date at the top and the source is there as well. So you can see that the journal has its own formatting style. So it's done it all in caps. You have to transform that into whatever style you're using. But the source here is the Serials Review. It's coming from volume 45. There is an issue number. There's page numbers and there's a link there. So you can include that all in your reference when you're doing it. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll see in APA style, this is what it will look like. And again, we've color coded it. So there's the author, the date, title of the article, title of the journal. And in this case, the journal is italicized and the volume numbers. So there's these little, you know, details that you have to watch out for, page numbers and a link at the bottom. Now, I will say you can use citation generators to do this for you, and that will save you a lot of time. But remember, they're not always going to be 100% correct, and it's up to you to be able to identify these different elements and to put them in the right order and to format them properly. So just use it, save yourself some time, but then you do have to eyeball your reference list at the end to make sure you've done it in the proper style. And again, I'll just mention we're doing APA style here, but there's lots of styles out there. MLA, Chicago style, the sciences will have their own styles. Law has its own styles. Usually your professor will tell you which style he prefers or she prefers or they prefer. So stick with that. If they don't mention it in their syllabus, I'm pretty sure they will, but if they don't, you can always check with them. Sometimes professors might even say, you know, use whatever style you're familiar with or comfortable with, just be consistent. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of a pop quiz. So we're going to go back to Mentimeter. So next slide. So I'll give you a minute just to get back to Mentimeter. This is going to be a little bit trickier, but I don't expect you to be perfect. We just want to kind of get you used to identifying these elements and kind of looking to see if they're in the right place and they look correctly formatted. So don't worry, I'm going to give you a little template as well, but I'll give you a second to get back into Mentimeter. Maybe give me a thumbs up if some of you have gotten in. Everything is hopefully still working. Looks okay on my side. Thank you, Bay. Thanks, Flora. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so maybe we can move on to the next slide, and I'll give you a minute to look at this. Okay, obviously you don't have the source in front of you, but what we are doing here is I have on the right side the template that I've posted. So just imagine for this source, so we're going to cite a book. Just imagine that all the information is available. So we're going to look at these 3 citations, which one looks the most complete and the most correct according to the formatting template that I've given you on the side. It is a little bit tricky, so I'll give you a second to think about it. Let's assume that there are more than one author for this book. So we do want to include both authors. And Zoom doesn't allow us to do, sorry, Mentimeter doesn't allow us to do the actual formatting with the italics. So the title isn't actually correct, but just imagine that we're going to try to get the pieces in the right order and all the elements there. So it is a bit of a trick question, but we want to make sure we have 4 pieces of information: an author, a date, a title, and a source, which in this case will be the publisher of the book. So I have some answers from some brave souls. Some people might still be thinking about it. That's fine. Take your time. And remember, when you're doing this, you don't have to know this by heart. Even us at the library, we don't know every style by heart, and it gets tricky. And so we do flip back and forth between the style guide and our citation to make sure we've gotten everything. Okay, so for this first one, very good. It is tricky, but most people did pick the second one, and that one does have the most information there. So the first one is close, but it's missing the publisher at the end. And the last one, it's just, you know, we've missed one of the authors. So the second one is correct. So thanks a lot for participating. That's great. So it's not really that hard, but again, sometimes it is a bit time consuming and it is detail-oriented work. So just be careful. All right, a little bit harder with an article. So I have a template again on the side. All the pieces are, let's assume all the pieces are available for this article: an author, a date, name of the article, and the journal. So these are kind of trick questions here, but I'm just, you know, hoping that you're going to kind of pick out the one that has the most complete information. So an author, a date, and that the title is the title of the article, and the title of the journal has, you know, the source information. So some volumes, issue numbers, and page numbers for this one. So I think you're getting the hang of it. Great. And again, you're not going to be doing this manually all the time. You can use a citation generator. Just be careful. Okay. Thanks so much for participating. That's great. Okay, if we can flip back, Carlo, to the slides again. All right, we can't get away without talking about AI these days. So Gen AI and academic integrity. We're not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to say that most of your professors, most likely in your first course, in your syllabus, they're going to talk about AI, whether they allow for you to use AI or not. If they do allow it, how they want you to use it, whether they want you to cite it, how they want you to cite it. So if in doubt, make sure you check with your professor. Like Alex was saying, we do want to cite whatever we use. So there, it's likely going to be, if you do use it, if you are allowed to use it, you will have to tell your professor that you've been using it. So check with your prof and see if they allow for the use of the AI tools, and follow their instructions for how to use them and how to cite them properly. And I just want to mention also, the library has a number of workshops on academic integrity, and also on AI and different AI tools that you might be using for research. So do take advantage of those. All right. And we'll move to the next slide. And I'll pass it off to Joshua now, who's going to talk about talking to us and getting some help.
Thanks, Anitza. So we've covered a lot today, or if you're kind of like me and the idea of joining a conversation can be a little daunting, don't worry about it. If you need a little bit of help, the York U Libraries is always here for you. We've got your back, and I'm going to show you how. So Carlo, could you go to the next slide? All right, so we've got in-person help. Most of our branches will have a dedicated research desk that you can go to. The Scott Library, the Bronfman Library, the Frost Library, and the Markham Library all have a dedicated research desk near the front. But if you're at the Stacy Library, you'll have to walk over to the Scott to get help. Our hours are posted on the website. You can just follow that link there. Come into the library, approach the desk, explain what you're researching and what kind of help you need, and we'll walk you through the process. We'll help you develop your search, evaluate resources to see if they're scholarly or popular, or help walk you through the citation process. If you are not on campus, Carlo, next slide, or if you're a little bit far from the libraries and don't feel like walking over, we do have some online options. I think our most convenient one is the chat service. So just on the library homepage, a little widget will slide out. You put in your name, a little bit of information and your question, and then library staff will pick it up. We don't have a chat bot. It is staff. Everyone speaking to you today takes a little bit of time on there every week. For longer questions, more detailed questions, or after-hour questions, we do have reference emails available. So each of the libraries will have a dedicated email for reference questions. You can find a list of all of our emails at that website right there. So pick the one that fits the library you're at, and we usually get back to you in about a business day to sort those out. And then last, for those with a little bit more of a DIY kind of spirit, we've got workshops, like Anitza mentioned, how-to videos, and even self-paced modules to kind of walk you through some of these processes. You can find a list of all of those at that website, and also a section of our homepage has links to those workshops. Carlo, next slide, please. All right, so new this year, we have a whole host of online workshops. Sorry, we offer a lot of workshops every year that cover a bunch of information. So like Anitza said, AI, academic integrity. We also cover things like the Making a Media Creation Lab equipment, citation generators, so Zotero and things like that. And new this year is the Core Curriculum Workshop Series. So this is a series of 3 90-minute workshops that cover all of the basics in quite a bit of depth to help you get started. So there is Conquering Information Overload, which helps you sort through your sources and cite them correctly. Kickstart Your Research, which helps you come up with topics, develop your search strategy, and put those into practice. And then Question Everything, which focuses on evaluating bias and spin in information so that you avoid that kind of disinformation and misinformation that's out there. I'll go to the next slide. Now, one of our more DIY kind of resources are our research guides. These are essentially like little wikis put together by our librarians. They'll go through our whole collection and then pick out the most useful resources for different topics. The vast majority of them are like subjects, like faculty-affiliated subjects, business and economics, fine arts, and health. So if you're doing research in one of those areas and you need help finding resources, these research guides will have great links to databases, encyclopedias, dictionaries that really focus on that topic. Other than subject-specialized ones, we have research guides focusing on types of resources. So we have some that help you find archival materials, one for our leisure reading collection, things like primary sources and newspapers. So really specific types of resources that can often be a little bit trickier to find. We also have those. And then last, we've got a writing and citing section, which has guides for academic writing, business writing, citing your work, and then Zotero, which is a citation manager. So on the library homepage, if you just switch to the Research Guide tab, you can search for one of these subjects, or outlined in blue there, you can just browse the whole list and go through. And we'll go to the next slide. Last, we've got the first year undergraduate section of our website. It is a one-stop spot for incoming or transfer students with information on research, course reserves, media creation, equipment, and more. It's a one-stop spot if you want to start strong. And our student success mentors who are here on the chat with us today also have a section on this part of the website. It's a blog relating their personal experiences and their time at York and in the libraries. Okay, from here, we'll stop the screen share, Carlo, and I'll start and I'll give a quick demonstration of our chat service just to show you how to log in, how to get an answer, and those sorts of things. So share. Okay, you should be seeing my homepage now, the library homepage. Just before we get into the chat demonstration, I'll just show a few things that we went over. So here's that basic search that June covered and the link to the advanced search. This is the research guides tab I was talking about. So you can search for a subject like psychology or a resource type like newspaper here, and it'll bring you a list of relevant research guides. And you can also browse the whole list. But we were talking about chat, so that's over here on the side. Sometimes if you're inactive for a while, it'll slide out on its own. But if you click on it, it will pop out. So we ask for a little bit of information. It's not required. It stays in-house. It just helps us evaluate the service, keep up with trends on the chat. So I'll just fill these in really quickly. And then down at the bottom, there's a section for your question. I'm going to save you the hassle of watching me type, and I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm looking for the book, Teaching Information Literacy Reframed. So I give the whole title of the book. Does York U have a copy? And I'm in class until 8 tonight. Will I be able to pick it up? From there, I can just start the chat, and you can see my question is here, and we're just waiting for a library team member to pick it up. So now we can see Annie's joined the chat. And there we go. And we get a nice little welcome message. And the chat is in real time, and we're just sharing the information. Okay, there we go. Oh, sorry, I keep messing up my scroll bars. So I did a quick search for that book, entering the title. They found me a copy with a link that I can open in another tab. There's my book. That's awesome. And then it's at the Scott Library, so it's where I said I wanted to be. Oh, and perfect. The Scott Library is open until 10 tonight. So I will be able to grab it after class. And that was everything I needed. So I'm just going to say thank you and send that off again. Okay, now before we finish the chat, something that's really helpful I find is this email button. If you click on that, you'll enter your email and it'll send you the whole transcript of the chat. So if the operator sent you some important links or the title to an article that you might forget, you can just email yourself the transcript and you'll still have all those links and everything. But I got my goodbye message back from Annie. I'll end the chat and give it a little quick rating and submit it. And then we're done. So I will stop sharing now. And from here, I will hand it over to the student success mentors, Dax and Simran.
Okay, so before we let you go, this is the York University's library Instagram handle. This is where you can find other information about the library. You can stay updated about the upcoming workshops and events that can help you, get to know the library better and the resources better. And you can find other informative videos about the library. So thank you very much for attending the presentation, and we hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us online through the chat service that Joshua just demonstrated, or you can even reach out to us in person. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we did receive some questions throughout the course of the session, some of which was private message to me. And one question someone asked is the library's opening hours. are they like, is it available like 24/7 throughout the entire, like exam season or like midterm season?
Sorry, Rachel. Was that about hours of operation for
Yeah.
the different branches of the library?
Different branches of the library. They want to know if the library is open throughout the entire like exam season, like 24/7, or during midterm season.
hmm I'm just going to pull up our library hours webpage. So, folks, if you want, you can save it as a bookmark. And I think Carlos may be even pulling it up on the screen. So you can save, thank you, Joshua. You can bookmark that page. For yourself, for your convenience. The hours do change. So summer hours right now are very different than what the hours might look like from the during the fall and winter terms. Um, there are some changes that usually happen depending on, the time of year. Sometimes we're in an intercession period between semesters. There's also the closures that happen during holidays and the winter closure of the university. So I would always recommend students to check on this website because we do update it, and it also gives you uh, the hours for the rest of the week. So you can always check here to make sure, oh, I want to go in on Sunday. I want to make sure I can actually go use that service that I wanted to use on Sunday. So I would bookmark that page. Um, but also, Rachel, in the chat, and I think maybe you have or someone from the event staff, folks were wondering about getting access to the slides. I think they would get it from, was it Connect?
So
YU Connect or?
yeah, we're recording the session right now. So the recording of the presentation will be available on our YouTube channel, Student Life Yorkville. I'm gonna ask if someone can link that in the chat, as well as our transition and orientation website. You can also access it there. All right. And someone asked a question too as well, that does the library, like all of the libraries at York, do they offer accessibility services for students with disabilities?
Yeah, so we have a department called Library Accessibility Services. Very important for anyone looking to get help from them. You have to sign up with Student Accessibility Services from the university first, and then they make a referral. Most of our accessibility services are at the Scott Library. We have an adaptive lab with adaptive technology and washrooms available, as well as just kind of quieter study areas. And then for referrals from student accessibility services, we also offer things like digitization, special computer technology, and things like that. But the first step is always student accessibility services.
All right, wonderful. We did just have a session like this with accessibility services a week ago. So if you ever need a recording of that, you can always visit our YouTube channel or our website. And someone did ask another question, that are there services or materials in languages other than English?
Yeah, so most of our collection is English. We do also have a very strong French collection, especially at the Frost Library. Other than that, we have a bunch of different resources in a lot of languages from specific areas and countries that focus on those topics. I can't say for sure how many languages we have or how many of each book we have in those languages, but there is quite a variety, especially at the Scott Library.
And I'll just add that we also have some newspaper databases that allow you to read newspapers in languages from around the world.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Someone did ask, I know in the chat there was a question about like foreign laptops from the library, and a response was given that no laptops are now available to borrow, but like use the public computers. Someone was asking if there are other materials that can be borrowed from the library. So is there anything else? Obviously not laptops, but like is there anything else I can get from the library?
We do have a lot of other types of reserve materials. So we have financial calculators, we have CD-ROM players. We also have the maker and media creation labs, spaces where you can borrow like production equipment, cameras, microphones, recording equipment, things like that.
And you can also book the spaces to do the editing. So if you've gone out and recorded yourself for a podcast, you can book a suite to edit it down. Likewise, if you've shot a video, you can book a suite to do the audio for it and cut the images down. So check out, there's making spaces at both the Keele and Markham campuses, all accessible with your YU card.
For sure. Thank you. Someone just asked a question in the chat if how to book a spot for studying on campus, I think in the libraries.
I'm happy to field that question. So when you visit the main library homepage, you can scroll down just underneath the little or just to the left, sorry, of the library hours, there's a link that says book a study space, and I'll put that link in the chat as well. You do need your Passport York access in order to log in and to book the space. But essentially, once you go in there, you can choose the location of the room that you would like to book, whether it's at the Scott Library, Bronfman, Stacy, the Markham Campus Library, the Frost Library at the Glendon campus, and you can choose the type of room or space that you would like to book. So the different branches have different types of study spaces. For example, Bronfman has a single person room that you can book. Maybe you have like a Zoom job interview you want to book, then you can book it for at the Bronfman Library, for example. Exactly, yeah. So you click on Bronfman and Flores, for example, the individual study room versus a group study room. So the different branches offer different types of study spaces. You can also try out the different spaces, and it might not be what you wanted when you originally booked. You can always come visit us at the circulation desks to get some extra support for finding a different space that maybe best suits your studying needs.
And just to add on, specifically for the study rooms, if you're in person, there's also usually a QR code on the door. You can just scan that and it'll take you right to the booking page for that study room.
Wonderful. And our last question is, so I know we mentioned about research and how to like get research help at the library, but someone was asking if the library collaborates with professors specifically on like assignment help or course reading.
Sorry, Rachel, that was about professors collaborating with the library.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So on occasion, your professors will actually be inviting our librarian colleagues to come into your classrooms. You might see some of us there as well, helping out with those sessions. And so they might be coming in to talk to you about things like research skills, finding resources, evaluating resources that are specific to your discipline or even specific to that class. Sometimes the professors invite librarians in to deliver sessions about even a specific assignment that you're doing in your class. So, this isn't the last time that you'll see anybody from the library. You'll likely be seeing folks from the libraries in your classes, helping you to conduct research more effectively, whether it's for a specific assignment or maybe it's for your discipline more generally. And then any course description it does go through a library approval process. So we make sure that there are resources available for that particular course, the information in that course, and if we don't have the resources for it, that we're able to acquire the resources. So the books, the articles, the peer-reviewed journals that are relevant to that particular course. So the library, we're doing a lot of stuff in the background, but also you'll see us hopefully in your classes as well for different workshops and sessions so that you feel a little bit more confident with your research. I also saw a question in the chat about pictures of the libraries. I'm not sure what specifically you had in mind about pictures of the libraries. If you're maybe interested in what the study spaces look like, when you go in to book a study space, there should be an image of the study space itself that you're booking, so you can see that if you would like. Otherwise, if you go into the library website, there actually is a location and spaces page. So I'll just share that in the chat as well. So, and I'll share that as a reply to the comment, and also I'll share that here if you're interested in seeing what the different library spaces that are available to you and what they might look like.
And I'll just add to Alex's little talk about the resources is that sometimes professors put textbooks on reserve in libraries as well. And that information should be in your syllabus. And hopefully your professor will let you know about that. And of course, you will need your YU card to access that resource.
First, thank you so much. The presentation was wonderful. I do agree with always saying the library staff. I've had some of them in my classes give like a little presentation before, unlike assignments or like course readings. So it's wonderful what you all do to support student life at York. So that's it for the Q&A session. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat. And before we go, I'm gonna pass it back to my colleague Clara to complete the Menti that we started earlier.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And first, a huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. And of course, a big shout out to the amazing library services team for sharing such valuable tips and tricks with us. Before we officially end the session, we have a quick feedback survey for you. It's the same Menti link, and the code is the same that we used earlier. The code is 12476207 with the URL menti.com. So just open up any browser and type in the URL menti.com and enter the code 12476207, or just click the link that's linked in the chat. All right, so I'm gonna begin. If you're unable to join, once again, you can feel free to put your answers in the chat as well. So the first question is, how satisfied are you with today's session? Okay, we're getting a lot of satisfied. Okay, that's amazing. That's wonderful to see. I'm so glad most of us are satisfied. Honestly, even as a current student, I learned a lot today, so I hope you're walking away with the same feeling. Okay, on to the next slide. Is there anything you still have questions about regarding library services, the libraries on campus, or any content that we went through? Okay, no, this was wonderful. Thank you. Okay, great. Sounds like we're all clear for now. Let's move on to the final question. The last question is, what other topics would you like us to cover in future sessions? Could be unrelated to library services. We actually have sessions tailored to a variety of topics you might be interested in as a new student coming to York. So maybe Red's life or anything other than what we've covered today. Y'all are perfect. I attended all the events this summer. Amazing. It was great seeing you. For now, nothing. Awesome. Okay, so For those that want to learn more about our events, you can scan the QR code right here on the slide and sign up for upcoming events that we have. We'd love to see you a lot more. And yeah, thank you for participating today, and I'll pass it on to my colleague Amit.
All right, so with that, the session has finally come to an end. Once again, thank you so much for, thank you so much to the amazing team at York University's libraries for such an informative and engaging presentation, and for providing clear answers to everyone's questions. And thank you to every one of you who joined us today. We really appreciate you taking your time and participating. So we hope this session has given you a better understanding of how York University libraries can support your academic journey and how you can make the most of the wide range of resources we have available on campus, both online and in person. So if you think you have any questions later or you would like additional support, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or York University's libraries directly. And we'll be following up with some key resources and contact information shortly. So with that, thanks again for being here, and we wish you the very best as you begin your studies at York, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.